Is this thing on? Hello? Good evening. Happy daylight savings time this week. Oh, we got a funny story. I discovered Canada does have daylight savings time. Yes, we for 1 week last week it's out of sync with the UK, so I was an hour early today. Oh, nice. Well, I hope hello, Toontastic. Hi, I hope that you weren't waiting too long. Um but yeah, that's funny. And actually, because I know that you're in the UK, that's happened several times now. And for me, I should know that. That's This has been something that I've had to deal with over the last couple of years due to meetings and whatnot. And that's pretty funny. I completely forget every year, as I'm sure most people don't even have to deal with that stuff. Um, anyway, Mabel saying hi, right on time, right on cue. I have a special treat for her, but it's in the freezer, so I was hoping to not get it right away. But she's, of course, 4 o'clock rolls around. She just knows. You want this? You want this? What's this? What is this? This is a little paper towel roll that I turned into treats for her that she's able to demolish. So she loves that, rip it into things. You want this? Can you show everybody how cute you are? There you go. So you can't see it, but she's also just pulled something out of the trash, which great. Always on camera when they want to be their worst behavior. All right, so really cool. We're getting into it this week. We're almost done a portion of our rig. We're not even close to being done the rig. But what do we have here? We have Cadence. I know I'm not sharing my screen yet, so I will. But we do have Cadence. We're almost done the front view of the head. So that's pretty exciting. We've already added the mouth charts. So if anybody wants to have access to this when it's finished, I might make it more accessible. Reach out to me if you're interested. Um, but yeah, if you followed around along to this point, you will have you'll have a complete front view either probably not today, but next week. I have a feeling next week it will be 100% done. So today I'm going to go over some of my, it'll be introductory since we don't have the full character, but basically just what I do to kind of go over um, just like a general overview of the rig. Uh, and then we'll fix up anything that we find. And then hopefully by the end of today's lesson to the course, whatever session, episode, um, we we get into deformers. So that'll be pretty exciting because then we'll be able to kind of play with those. I figure we might as well finish the head before we jump into the rest of the body. And then that way it gives people a real nice benchmark to aim to. If you're rigging along with this journey, it's nice to have those little milestones. So let's create one. Yeah, and if you are rigging along with us in your own time at your own pace, please let me know because I'd love to hear about it. Reach out to me on either Instagram or what's that one, LinkedIn. Um, and yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think, and if you're struggling with anything, if you have any questions. I did have an excellent um, shout out. Mabel, what is up? I did have an excellent shout out this week, this previous week, and I'll go over that really quickly when I go over the whole thing. And then because Mabel is acting the way she is, I may just grab her freezer treat. I got a rigging question. Sweet, fantastic, go for it. And Toontastic, you kind of popped in last week. So we went to the same program. Oh, Mabel, you are out of control. Out of control. You just know. I saw that there's IKF switches in Harmony. Do you know how that works? I kind of know how that works. That's not that. Well, we can talk about that. For me to just jump into that technique right now, I'd be pretty rusty. To be honest, at my best, I was always kind of rusty at that particular way of rigging. But that particular rigging is not really big in studio at the moment. So unless people are kind of getting into that stuff, and I'm more unaware of it, It's not something that's huge. Animators use a very different way of animating. They want to have a lot more control, and you lose a lot of that control when you get into that IKFK switches. I think I have a feeling if it's the Z Bird Brain video that you're talking about, I also saw that, and I was going to give it a watch to see how she did it. But yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just going to flip this to be right back, and I'm going to grab Mabel a treat that will get her attention. Hang on. All right. On the Harmony website, and it was like, whoa, that's weird. This is 2D, not Maya. Yeah. Okay, then maybe that's not the same video that I saw. That's obviously not the same video if that was on the Harmony Toon Boom website. But yeah, then maybe take a look at Z Bird Brain's YouTube channel. She does do a IKFK tutorial that I saw. I didn't watch it, so I don't know what she's doing in there, but I did see the title for it. So yeah, take a look there and see what she's doing, and then maybe another day we can kind of go over that. It's just a very different way of rigging, and it's a very different way of animating. So when you make a change like that on a pipeline, it's like, whoa, too much. It's too much change. Because then you get senior animators that have to like learn how to do everything all over again. Newer animators are always kind of like, I love innovation. This is great. This is going to save so much time. But senior animators are sometimes they're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this change, and it just takes a little while. And when you're working in a pipeline, you really have to kind of go, 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 go. Those little, uh, they're not really little. Those changes to the pipeline structure, like the actual show itself, it can be pretty hard to manage. Let's say that. Let's say hard to manage. For instance, if I was a supervisor and I was implementing something new onto a show, my personal rule is that I only change about 20 to 25% of something at a time. So I think IKFK would be a pretty big shock to the system, but it would definitely be more than changing 20 to 25%. So you want to make sure that you've got a lot of people on board before you implement something like that in a pipeline. But as for saying that out loud now, good for students, probably, most likely. So people that kind of need to animate a little bit faster, those are probably really good tricks that you can implement to kind of get through your scene a little bit faster. It's really going to be a matter of, I'm really curious to see if it's true IKFK switches or if it's their constraint system, because I'm used to their constraint system, which is a different way of like setting up your network completely new, like a weird web that you kind of have to build. Yeah, that's enough on IKFK because I'm not an expert in that. But it sounds like it's a cool thing. And if you're going to keep looking into it, yeah, double check to see if Z Bird Brain has a YouTube tutorial for that. And as for then, we're going to jump into Kadence. So, gameplay. Okay, cool. And hopefully Mabel's chill. If she's not, I'll have to put her anxiety code on. Okay, so I have to do a little bit of a recap just to see where I am. I think at the end of last week's episode, I really quickly went over and added the static transformation. We did the hierarchy inside the eyes. We still have our little link system there. I think these are all set. Switch over to my transform tool. Oh, where are you? There we go. Yeah, all good. Excellent. What I'm thinking today, because I know that we do need to add a couple things to the eyes. So the nice thing about static transformations, and somebody else has brought this up in a previous week about static transformations, and like, you know, maybe they're not good to use, like they're I forget what the exact word was, but taboo in the industry, but I love them. So today we'll probably explore a lot of the reasons why they're super beneficial um, for replacing and creating new artwork. And as I mentioned before, if you build it once, you can clone it, and then you don't have to build it twice. And that ultimately saves so much time when you're building the front view of a character, especially when you're building the front view of a character. So we've got our eyes. We've got our dimple right here and our blush. I'm going to need to add another dimple and blush. So I could actually bring those right into the cheek, or the elements of the cheek. I can bring that right into the eye, or I could use a static transformation as well and just have them again. What are you looking for? There's nothing here. Oh, I know you're extra bossy today. Okay. Oh boy. No, come on. There's none of that. That's it. You have everything. Hey, no, none of that. What is That's new. She's just going into the trash looking for paper. Doesn't normally do that. What are you doing? Okay. Try to ignore her. She's gonna need her anxiety coat. Okay. Like me. I think I need her anxiety coat. Come here. Come on. You okay? That's it. I can't give you any more food. You had dinner, you had dessert, and you've already ripped up 2 pieces of paper. I think that's you should be stuffed. Can you see her? Like, is this she like kind of cut off? She's kind of cut off. Can you go lay down? Go lay down. Okay. All right. Where was I? Okay, so we're talking about the dimples. We'll see what we want to do for that when we get there. We have the crease. We have the mouth. Okay, so I know that the couple things that I do want to change on the rig already um, is that I want to actually add a fun feature to the teeth. I know this is like so not normal. She literally just picks it up as I get on the computer. And not when I'm on the computer. I mean, I'm on the computer almost all the time, but it literally Tuesdays at this time, she just knows. Okay, so I want to add a little trick to the teeth. That's for sure. I want to add handles to the eyes so that we can make all the pieces that are like not grabbable right now. We want to make them accessible at all times. So we'll do that. And I have to admit, that's something that I typically forget when I'm rigging without templates. So if the template's there, I tend to remember, but when the template's not there, I tend to forget. But that's okay. And then we've got, oh, all right, so I've got a peg that I did miss, so I'm glad I checked it. Oh, actually, I haven't set any of these pegs yet. All right, so that's good. I will set all the pegs today as well. We'll probably delete all these and recreate them. That's it. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. And then that'll set us free so that we can move on to the deformers. And once we have our deformers done, then the front view will be done. And the way I'm going to be setting my deformers up is so that when we go to animate to the second pose, which it will still take us a while to get there. So again, I keep switching the method of like in my brain like how this is going to work, but in reality it's working so much differently. And I kind of like this cadence of like creating a rig. So what we've done to the head we'll move on and we'll do to the body, and then we'll go back and we'll do the second pose. So we'll move into the quarter front, and then you'll start to really see how we pick up speed. So the first view is usually the longest, so we're going to spend the most time looking at the front view. So we might as we'll continue on that to the end. All right. So then the things that we have to do now are, I think, just adding the handles to the eyes and making the quick change to the teeth. Um, and I'll give a shout out to that comment that happened this week. So I don't know if I should use names when I do shout outs, to be honest, but someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and was saying that when we created these groups right here, on the inside, we have the overlay, line art, color art, underlay, and auto patch. They reached out to me and they just asked if it would be a good or wise decision just to label these like what they are. So overlay, line art, color art, underlay, something like that specifically. And to be honest, that's a great way of doing it. You might want to add an AP in there maybe just so that you know that it's there. But that gives you exactly which node is which, or which multi port out is which node. So here you got your overlay, your line art, and then I don't know if you knew this, but if you actually zoom in and get close enough and you hover over those blue dots, it will tell you what it's linking up to inside the group. So here you can see that there's an AP attached to it, AP7 port 0, 2, and then this one is CA, so that's the color art, and then this one will be the underlay. Let's see if yep, there you go. So yeah, you can do that to track it. I don't typically check that. Like I said, I want it to be precise. I don't want to waste time looking into which one's which. So I just look for what's easy, and that might be it. But yeah, if you want to name those groups, you can definitely name them in that regard. That's pretty simple. And then when you duplicate, every time you duplicate that group, you'll just have the underscore number at the end saying which one it is. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in and finish up our artwork. So let's do the teeth, because once we do that, the mouth will be done. When we go to do the eyes, um, since we have a couple handles to do, there'll just be a couple things that we can do. So we might as well just start with the teeth. And let's go. So I'm going to steal one of those things, one of these groups actually. So I'm going to grab this Dropbox, copy, and I'm going to, do I have one up here? Oh, I have one right here. And why not label it now? So overlay, line art, color art, auto patch, underlay. There we go. just said it. So what is that? Line art. No. Under overlay, line art, AP, color art, underlay, mask one. All right, so let's steal this for our teeth. Because when you're working, you want to start to figure out how to save time. And since I showed you this trick, we might as well start using it. So what we want to do is create a little space in our network. We're going to need to have two of these, and we're just going to bring one under for the teeth. What we're going to do, let me find the other. All right, so when we have a view like this, so when we have our teeth overlapping, because we're gonna have this character is gonna have like multiple teeth, so you can like move them all around. We went through this last week, so I won't spend too much time doing that. But when the teeth are overlapping, what we'll do is we'll create a seamless network there. So you'll have the same like system that we built when we did the head, and the same system that we'll build when we get to the limbs. We're gonna add to the teeth. So this is where we start to get really professional, because there's these little areas of professionalism, little details. Like this is where we start to amp up like what's expected when you get onto a studio environment. It's like more and more and more. So let's try to add a little thing right there. And then I'll show you another little trick. All right, so we have our one. I just want it underneath for the teeth. Get rid of this. Okay, so it's kind of already set up, which is really nice. The only thing is we do need to change, this cutter needs to be hooked up so that, which one are we looking at? We're looking at the top teeth and the bottom teeth. The bottom teeth are naturally behind the top teeth. Let me get to a frame. Oh, did I? No, I did not. Okay, sweet. I was going to say, did I delete? Where are my teeth? Okay, so now that I'm looking at the timeline as well, you can see that we can actually see all of these extra layers in our timeline, and they're very annoying. So I'll really quickly show you how to hide that, because you can. So if you go to your little hamburger menu and go to view, you can change it under show, and you can actually, you can go to show manager actually. Show manager is basically kind of like the, well, you can set it as a default. So right now, default, everything is on. You can actually hide a lot of this stuff. So we don't need to see it for rigging. We don't need sound, so we can turn off sound. We don't need effects. That's actually what that is. And we can actually hide composites. It's best to keep groups, because we do use groups. Composites too. Sometimes you want to know. I think there's a reason why you want to have them there. I forget what that is right now. Maybe we will run into that issue at some point, but I'm going to leave it off just to make it really clear, the network. But there we go. So it's removed all of those extra lines we don't need. And what I want to do right now is look at the teeth. There we go. So I'm here, and the teeth are seen through the mouth. Here's my character. Here. Oh, there it is. All right, hide that. Okay, so we'll just work here. All right, so here we go. Our top teeth are in front of the bottom teeth. And so what we need to do, and it's gonna be rare that our bottom teeth come in front of our top teeth. Like it just doesn't happen that often. It's not that it doesn't happen ever. It doesn't happen often. So this is one of those things where you can build it that way, but you don't have to. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting the top teeth by the bottom teeth. So we really just need one of these. I think I said two earlier, but we just need one, unless you want to set it up to have both. So I'm going to use this cutter and I'm just going to pop that into the top tooth connection. And I'm going to use these. Oh, actually, what am I talking about? I do need this. I need to need two. I just don't need to cut two, so I don't need to have these unless I want them. So here we go. Okay, so our bottom teeth are going to be hooked up. Here's a nice little trick that I like to use too, actually. Since when I put the group in and it went to the wrong connection, instead of unplugging and then replugging and doing this thing where you drag your camera view, I already know that it's plugged in properly in the inner mouth composite right here. So I will actually use a cutter and I will just kind of, let's say I need it to be here. I know I need my overlay as well. Actually, that one has to follow it down. But I can now delete that cutter, and I have the two layers that I was using there. Let me double check my. Okay, so everything is on my line art for the teeth. So let me separate this. So I'm going to take the fill from the teeth and put that on the color. Let's see, and now I've got my, let me actually just use, I need this one. You can also use a composite, and then when you delete your composite, you'll just have the two connections. And I guess it's the overlay that I don't need, but I'm going to leave it plugged in for now. The auto patch from my bottom teeth is going to be what cuts the upper teeth. And once again, I got to double check my top teeth because I think I have my, yep, my color on my line art layer, and it needs to be there. All right, so now I can grab another composite, and I'm gonna plug in my color art here, and I'm gonna delete that, and that's gonna give me the connection all the way down to the bottom of my composite. And now all I'm missing is my actual overlay artwork, so we can add that in. I know I don't have it, and we'll make that look nice. So copy, paste, and now I'm just going to actually, let's leave that one there. Yeah. And I'll taper the lines. Okay, now all I have to do is plug that in. All right, so now we have our working teeth. Okay. Okay, and we'll leave that for now. And if you want, you can actually set it up so that you have the opposite direction as well. Actually, I'll do that. So we just need, in this case, we just need another cutter. So copy, and you're going to be cutting the line art. So you're always cutting the line art, and you're always using the auto patch of the opposite part of the network. Now, you're not going to see the difference because one, I have to go and create that artwork, but two, it's because we have to we have to bring the other teeth in front. So let's create the artwork. Copy. So now I'm just on my line art layer, and let's just add that right here. All right, so now we've got the line art layer. And let's just make sure it works by bringing our bottom teeth in front. Oops, what did I just bring forward? Like it's bringing the tongue. All right, so is my bottom tooth. All right, so here we've got something's happening with the flattening and the cutter. So let me delete these and remake them. This one right here is going to be flattening the whole thing and kind of creating it as one. So I already know that my my composites are the right way. So it has to do with the cutter. It's not going to be here. So when this is happening, sometimes what that means is that there's just too many cutters. Or sorry, there's not too many cutters. It's kind of the opposite. There's not enough cutters. So I'll deactivate this for now. Actually, I'm gonna use a cutter as a placeholder, and then I'll cut that. And then I'll deactivate the mouth. It won't be as glaring. All right, so bring the bottom teeth in front. There we go. So there, that's how it should look. But we'll have to figure out that cutter. And oops, I'm not using my pen. There we go. Okay, so let's delete these. Let's bring this back in, break it. Now, most of the time, it's rare that you have to bring the teeth forward. So this is something that you probably do. This is probably overkill. We're probably overkilling fixing this right now when you think about the majority of the time. But who knows? Who knows? So let's see. Let's see if we can fix it within the network. Well, I guess we have to wait till we add pegs. So. I'm torn. I'm torn. We have to wait till we add pegs. So let's wait. Let's go to the eyes. We got to do that next. All right. So here, we're going to talk about the benefits of static transformation. And we're going to go ahead and add a couple of little things. Let's find the eyes. We got to go back to frame 1. Okay. All right. All right. So we've got our thing set up. We have our line art, we have our underlay. We haven't used too many nodes here. Again, you could be using those groups instead of these. And if you wanted to do that, that would look like this. You just grab one. I'm not going to completely undo what I've already done, but I will. I'll just really quickly show you kind of what that looks like instead. So it would look more like this. So you'd have one group under each drawing, and then you would be connecting to the proper outlet. So you could do that. We've got a question. What's the reason we wait to add pegs rather than adding them now? I think you might have explained before, but I can't remember. Again, it's just like the last thing that I do, and it's kind of funny. I am jumping around. I am finding that I'm jumping around a lot. This is I wanted to stay as true to how I rig as possible, but I also would say that I'm not. So I guess in my mind, what I'm defaulting to is like from left to right. So instead of finishing all the peg hierarchies, in my mind, it's more of a priority to get the handles in the eyes. So that's kind of where why I've jumped back. Um, so it's probably a little subconscious and a little like biased to my experience, uh, because the hierarchy to me is just like the last thing that I do. Um, Mainly because it's one of the easier things to do. So I always try to get the harder things done first. That could be it. I'm not entirely sure. Uh, just an instinctive prioritizing. Yeah, and I'm probably not. It could be a preference thing. For preferences, I'm all like I would say that that's not really a preference. I'd actually say that it's really important to work left to right in all cases, just so that you're not skipping steps. But I know that I'm gonna catch if I make a mistake, I'm going to catch it. Whereas if you make a mistake, you might not catch it if you're newer to the software. So um, I don't know. Does that explain? Does that explain the question? So yeah. I don't know. We could go and I could do the pegs and then we can come back to the eyes. It's up to you. There's 50-50 chance in the chat. What are you thinking? Give me a couple seconds. Okay. Well, let's jump into the eyes. Let's get back into the eyes. Let's finish the eyes because they will be done. They will be 100% done. The teeth, all we had to do was add that thing in. When we get into more of the hierarchy, then I'll go back and I'll double check that we get those working and I'll show you what that is. It really just needs to be that I think the cutter that cuts all the things in the mouth just needs to be applied above, and we might need more cutters. But again, that's a delicate balance because you don't want to add too many cutters, you don't want to have too little cutters. It's all depends on what you're going to do. So like I said, we might be going overkill, so we don't even probably need to go back and fix that. But we'll see where it goes. We're just rigging. We're just rigging here. Uh, but yeah, so the nice thing about using these groups is that you'll always have the all the layers. So in my case, when I'm using the individual art layers and the art filters, you can see here that I don't have the overlay and the color art, so I'll have to go and get them and bring them in. Um, oh, a little bit of confused by working left to right. Okay, so I will go over that real quick. Whenever you're looking at the node view, whenever you're looking at a character, and if I'll jump out of the characters group, is from left to right. If I zoom out completely, um, the face and the eyes is always far left, and then the feet are always far right. So it's kind of like a head to toe from left to right, except that your head starts with your face. And that's because the face usually has the most details, and you want that to be really easily accessible to the animator. If you go back and watch my reruns, you'll hear me say that a lot. so so that's going to be pretty repetitive. But yeah, you always kind of want to work left to right in that sense, or you can go right to left. You could start. I don't know anybody that starts at the feet and works their way up, but you could. Uh, it's just probably a really smart way. So in this case, we've really been focusing on the head for the last couple of weeks. I haven't even jumped into the body yet. And I think that probably throws me off a little bit, throws my thinking off a little bit. But yeah, so I think that instinctively, I just wanted to jump back to the left, and it's mainly so that you don't miss something. Because when you are jumping around from network to network, which is kind of how I feel like I'm working right now, because it is a little bit out of order. Um, you could miss something pretty easily, and those are usually like really easy mistakes that you don't have to make. So that's kind of what you want to look for. Um, so Yeah, let's go in and let's add our handles. So a handle is basically something that it just makes the unclickable clickable. So there's different kinds of handles, and I've added them to. I think I've added them here. So if you jump into the wrinkle here, you can see that I've added an invisible handle, and that's just from the color palette. So right here, it's literally just a color. We can even change this. It doesn't have to be white. You can do this bright green. It also kind of helps so you know that it's an invisible handle. It's just an invisible color. So we can do that, something similar with the wrinkles. And we're going to add a color. And instead of it being that green, we can probably go like a blue. And we'll call this actual handles. And actually, we don't want it to be totally alpha. Just want it to be kind of alpha. And we also don't want that to be that color. There we go. All right, so when we go into our eyes, the first thing that we want to do is we're going to add them to our eyelids. So our eyes are usually going to be open. Right now they're closed. So typically it's going to go like this. So if you're an animator and you're trying to grab those eyelids, they like to just click them. So right now we don't have anything that's clickable, so we're going to add that in right now. And I will reset here. And so there's a couple ways that you can do this. I've seen little shapes. I've seen what do you call them? I've seen little shapes. I've seen lines, outlines, dots. Again, something like this, you want to be consistent. So, see, where's my shape tool? Use the handle color. For the upper lids, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my handles on the overlays so that we can see them in our library. If I put them on our underlay, they would actually be under our artwork. So I don't necessarily want to do that. I want it to be on top. And what I'll do is I'll just add a little square, and I'm going to remove, and I'll put them right here. And I'll put one on the lower lid. And I'm going to turn this on real quick so I can actually see. All right. So now, because I put them on the overlay, and now I'm leaning towards these groups a lot, actually. All of a sudden, you're going to see that I do a complete 180, and I'm going to love using these groups now. So I'm going to use these groups because they are actually going to make our lives a little easier, believe it or not. So let's use them. All right, so each lid is going to have its own group, and we're going to hook it up so that, I wonder if we can get it to, there we go, to figure out how to get it to default to the line art. It's like so subtle. Line art, there we go. All right, so I'll pull the overlay down, but again, we've got some engineering here, so we're going to actually bypass this network completely. Handles are usually unique, and you don't typically want them to be like affected by anything. So you can just add a handles composite. And then instead of being plugged in there, we're going to plug them in here because we can't see them anyway. And then we're going to go to the bottom of this network. There we go. So now we have these two little squares that we can go and we can grab. And so if our eyes are open completely, we can still grab them. And you can still animate them, all those things. And when we get to the point where we have deformers, they're going to help as well. So I'm going to reset these real quick. Now, the one thing that you want handles to do is that you don't actually want your handles to be seen on camera. So in this case, we can see that if I go to like a high res image or, or high res camera, I've got to fix this blush too so it's not so white. But when we look here, we have, you can still see them. So we don't want to see those when they're in render. So we're going to remove that. So basically we're going to turn, because we've got a handle composite, we can add handles to anything that we want now. And we're going to set it up so that anything that's in this network won't be shown on screen like this. So we can actually stay in this window, and I'm just going to bring up my node. Oh, hello. Added. Fine. Open. All right, we're going to bring in a remove transparency. Mm. Forgetting the name of my node. Increase opaque. No, that's not that node. Let me open up this. The node view. Render preview. Ah, visibility. There it is. Okay. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Had to look it up the old-fashioned way because I could not remember the name. Okay, so we've got our visibility node here. I'm just going to put this underneath the handles composite. And this node, what it's going to do is it's going to basically say anything that's going into it, so the composite that we have attached to it, anything that's going into that node, we're going to say open or display in OpenGL view. So we want that one to be off, and soft render we're going to turn off. And that just means that we're not going to see it when we're using our render view. And when we go back to our OpenGL, which is basically just the most basic way the program is running, that's when we see it. So now our handles, they exist. At least the first two handles exist, but they're not quite quite in the way. And we can clean these up as well. So we can actually make these a little bit closer. There we go. And now we can add handles to anything else that we are using. So if we have any, if we were to add any of like engineering to our eyelids, the same way that we did with our teeth, we would probably have to separate the line from or the artwork from the line art and the color art layer. We have to separate it. Right now, everything's on its line art, which is fine. This is fine. I turn this off. We can just see the line art. But if we have any engineering there, we can always go and add it later. So that's kind of what's really nice about using the groups and kind of rigging in this way. That I like is I find it's very adaptable along the way, and when you're first starting out rigging, that might be a little bit more difficult for you to like manage. But with enough experience and enough time, and like when you kind of make, there's a couple mistakes that happen when you rig along the way, and you make those enough that you recognize it immediately and you're able to fix it. Um, so we're not there yet. We haven't gotten to anything like that, but yeah, the groups make it really easy so that you can kind of jump back and forth, um, and kind of kind of rig as you go. So let's see. Oh, let's go. This one is this one, and this is the underlay. And you can delete these. Right. I don't think that we need a handle on the eyebrow. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to add one more group for the eye. So let's see if we can delete this one, delete this one. We got the underlay, the line art, and the overlay. Then we can delete these. Okay. I'm just going to deactivate those until we add deformers. And let's see, what do we need to add handles to? We have the winkle. This one needs one. Turned off for now. Oh, actually, that's another thing. We do want to add our deformers, or not our deformers. We do want to add our handles to our off drawings in these case for the eyes. And once again, this is kind of important because it's just another tool for the animators. It's not often that you are taking the eyelids, like you're turning them completely off. There might be a specific reason, but they're one of those things because you have to dive back into a group to get them. We want to just make that easy for animators, and that's again, that's just come with time. That's come with experience. This is what most animators ask for. This is just a very common way of doing it. So let's go in and we'll add those back to the. We'll do it for the winkle, and then we'll go back to the upper lids and lower lids, and we'll do that. But for here, let's add it to the overlay. I like to keep my handles off the edges of like little things like this. If you saw, I was almost about to put it here to kind of mark an edge, but because it's the eyes again, animators are always kind of like zooming in and looking into that area. So I actually don't want to block any of that artwork for the artist, for the animator. So I'm just going to pull it to the side. And then we can plug in the overlay here. And it'll disappear automatically. Yep. And now what we'll do, I'll show you how. So what I'll do when I'm transferring the handle over to the other blank drawing, all I do is zoom in. I click so that I remove the selection. Sometimes when if you don't do that step and you're still selecting the old artwork, you're only going to copy it in the old location, believe it or not. So I just make sure that I've clicked and then I just paste it again and it's done. So now I've got a handle that you can't see. Once again, it's gone, but it's there just to make that drawing easily accessible. And so now we'll do the same thing for these eyes, for these eye works. So copy, turn the drawing off. I'll just click just to deselect and then paste. And then you can see that it's there. And then I'll bring the other drawing back. Copy. When you start to work with TPLs, these kinds of things can be set up in advance, and then you can actually just rip a network off. and your handles will already be there, so they're not something that you have to go in and do every time. That's my preferred way of working. But since this is our first character, we can't make CPLs yet, so we'll get there eventually. And all right, now I can hide this. Now, I did a note saying that I should probably add a highlight. He doesn't have one, but probably for the best. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create some space in the network here. And I'm just gonna duplicate my pupil. And so again, we're copying and pasting special as always. Bringing up the paste special window. I'm gonna say always create drawing files and create new columns every time. And then that way, I've even kept my the peg. It's gonna have the same coordinates. So I'm just gonna change this to pupil highlight. And I'm gonna turn it off because it's not a part of the design, but this is something that the eye should have. Just in case there wants to be like a special effect. I've got a pupil main. I'm actually going to change this. This is going to be the pupil main. I'm going to add one more peg, and we'll call it the. I thought this is a pupil main. I feel like the eye. All. I think it should be the eye main. Copy. UB. Go like this. We're going to go like this. Yeah, so new hierarchy. We're changing this up a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. Did I do that backwards? I did that backwards. This one, and then this one. There we go. All right, so this one's going to be I main, or I can do I plus pupil. Do that. All right. And now we've got our pupil and our pupil highlight, which is to change this artwork. And in this case, everything will be the eye whites, but I'm going to actually create a new color. And we'll call this one the pupil highlight. Okay, and we'll change this pivot point since it needs it. Where's my pivot point setting button? There it is. You can go towards the middle or the bottom for a pupil highlight, something like this. This is, you're getting into like semantics at that point. It's totally fine either way. And then because he's not part of the design, we are going to turn it off. But since we're going to turn it off, we're going to make it easily accessible. Okay, so why am I adding a handle to the blank drawing? So that if the drawing is turned off, then we can turn it on just as easily. That's all it is. It's just like a real easy way to turn it back on. That way you don't have to like dive into the network, dive into the group, click the drawing, then go to your library, turn it back on. So that's like kind of like an on and off switch that's just accessible at all times. And we only add it to the eyes, really. So in this case, I'm just going to, oh, I got to make sure I put it in the right spot too. There we go. Did not. So let's check out one. Okay, so now it's on our blank drawing. And we'll use our group. And we'll bring our handle over here. Okay. And now we can turn this off. But if the animator ever wanted to bring that back on, it's right there. Yeah, you can turn it back on. So just a real quick. Okay, so now we have our, I almost want to move this over here now, but it's fine. We'll leave it. And let's see. So we've got our handles and our eyes, our eyelids. Is there anything else in the eye that needs a handle? Trying to think if the eyebrow should have its own handle. You know what? Let's add it. Let's just add it because you typically do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna steal the shape of the eyebrow and I'm just gonna make it real small. I'll just bring the overlay into here. Maybe make it a little bit bigger than that. And what that'll be nice too, because there is an eyebrow in the other eye, so we'll always kind of know which eyebrow's on. So in this case, it's Kadence's left eye that's got the eyebrow on, but the eyebrow still exists here in the other eye. So we'll just know, especially that that's there. So, and let's do this. All right, just double check. All right, and that is pretty good. We still have to add deformers to our eyes. Excuse me. But we're good to go. So the next thing is, because we've added our handles to the eyes on the front eye, we have to add them to our back eye. And this is why static transformations are the coolest thing since sliced bread. If you remember how to create one in the get-go, all we have to do is grab the group, go to the little hamburger menu, and Mabel is about to start whining. So you're fine. All right, so we're going to the hamburger menu, we go into the node view, and then we're just going to go to clone selected nodes drawings only. And we're going to delete our old eye. And we're just going to replace our new back eye. And it's going to put it exactly where it needs to be. And so we can turn off our drawing. Did I forget to add the blank drawing? I did. All right. So because I forgot to do it in that eye, let's do it in this eye. And this is what's really cool about the static transformations. So this is like the other part about static transformations. That's pretty cool. So I want to make sure that I go to the right drawing here. So eyebrow. So I've turned it off and I forgot to add the handle on the blank drawing. So we can do that now. And so on the handle that's here, I'm just going to copy it. And I'm just going to turn the drawing off and I'm going to paste it. And what's nice about that is when I turn off this drawing as well, the handle is now on the other side. So what's really cool about what I've just done is that what you do to the one group will affect the other. So when you add a new drawing, it will automatically be updated to the other group. So that's why these tools are really powerful. It's kind of like with great responsibility, or with great power comes great responsibility. So you kind of have to know like what you're doing and why you're doing it. But yeah, the static transformations are incredibly helpful, especially for limbs. When you think about how often if you're drawing 100 hands over here, those 100 hands can just show up over here. You don't have to copy them manually, is what we used to have to do, and we also had to like flip them manually in the drawing stages so that you could access the right hands. Oh, it saves so much time. It's definitely worth it. So now we have our handles in both sections. He's looking more like a bug, which I think is really funny. So I'm gonna turn my eyebrow back on. All right. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? So now we're at that point where we're pretty much done. So now we can set up our pegs for the rest of our character. And then what we can also do is, I'm gonna move these to the side. Uh, what we can also do is we can get into deformers. We can get more into deformers. So the same way that I did my pegs in the eyes, I'm gonna do here. So I know I've created some of these pegs from previous weeks, but I'm going to delete them now because I want to make sure that there's no movement within my group. I push this over here. I'm going to move all these. So that I can really focus on what's going on here. Also want that whatever this is, are we using this? Doesn't look like we're using this. All right. All right, so I'm gonna do a quick little, I'm gonna try, you can see here that my node view is not entirely straight. So I wouldn't mind cleaning that up a little bit. It's not the worst, not the worst, but we can do it manually this way, or I can try grab all the pieces. I just like to do these in smaller steps because sometimes you grab too much and the computer gets a little funky with it. So this is the time to kind of go through and do that step. Whoop, and this is what I mean where the computer gets a little funky with it. Okay. Good enough. Okay. Yeah, the groups look great. The groups look great. I might this course may have or this Twitch session may have turned me into a official group user. All right. Okay. So again, left to right. It's always left to right. So oddly satisfying videos compilation. Yep. Yep. Rigging, the OG of ASMR. Okay. And OCD. All right, so Control Shift P. That's going to give us our first pegs. I am a big fan of, again, still giving those space. You know you're going to have to add deformers. So I tend to do these in smaller stages and not necessarily like one big swoop, but I'll basically go through the whole thing. I think I can get to the rest of the hair here. And the reason why I create my pegs again is just because I want to make sure, I want to make sure that that there's no information on there, that my drawings are exactly where they should be. Ooh, hello. No. Heck. Just trying to grab them and move them up a little bit. There we go. There we go. Hey. All right. Okay, so I've got the whole head now, and now I get to start. When I'm doing a hierarchy, you could start from either way, left or right. In this case, also for the groups, when you get into things like this, you want to make sure that you know, it depends on how you're going to do this, but you need to have a peg for the animation, which is going to be inside your group. But when you're working with static transformations, uh, what you could do, what you should do is you should have a peg on the outside as well. And then what that one is that one moves your group. So if you need it. So, and I'm even thinking like, are we going to need that right now? But let's say yes. Well, it's going to be a good, it's going to be a good lesson, and we'll rename this one to IB. There we go. This group is going to be changed again. Actually, once we add our deformers, we're going to go in and re-add it. But I want to add these pegs. We'll just do this. All right, so right now these groups are being treated like they are drawings, which is fine. And from here, we're going to start to peg up. I'll start from the left. I'll go to the, and I'll work my way over to the right. But what we want to do is, I'm not going to be setting the actual peg pivots right now. All I'm going to be doing is setting up the hierarchy and using the names. So I always do this in smaller steps. So I will always, I'm always thinking from smallest to biggest when I'm rigging like this. And let's see, you got a question? That tidying function is great, but there's definitely room for improvement for how it handles it. Yeah, that's why I like to use it in smaller steps, because then I have a little bit more control over what it's going to do, which is kind of how I bypass that. I don't typically always use it either. Try to keep a straight network as it goes. And then you can select one wrong node and it, oh yeah, exactly. Yes. Which is why the undo tool is powerful. All right, so from here, I'm just gonna steal, I like to steal the naming, but that's because I'm a slow typer. So I will just steal eyes main. And then we're gonna have from here, I know we're gonna have a face. Face peg, I go a little bit higher. And then we've got our inner mouth, or our bottom teeth can be actually connected to the tongue. So right now what I'm trying to do is just work my way up to the face peg. So bottom teeth, main, it's actually more like a bottom jaw. And then this one's going to be, actually, got the mouth master peg. It's going to be the highest. And then we got a mouth, whoops, hello, what happened? I'm going to steal. So this is kind of how you can accidentally get all those dash P's. That's what you don't want. So I'm just going to steal this to be the inner mouth. So always go through and rename your pegs. And then I always do this part so that the peg that's on top of the actual peg is direct or is vertical. And I'll go over that in a second. Mouth main, and then we got the mouth. It's going to control everything. Master. All right. So all right, what I mean by that is this. So these pegs that are kind of controlling the idea, like, and by the idea I mean like everything of what they're holding. You want to think about that in terms of like where the pegs are. they want where the peg is, you're going to coincide with the peg below it. So the bottom jaw main peg, see if I can like zoom in to a point where you can read these. So I know this part's the hardest part to kind of follow along when you're watching a video online. So the like let's say the bottom jaw main peg is going to control the bottom teeth. The inner mouth is going to kind of like relate more to the top teeth peg. And then the mouth master, the mouth main, and then the mouth, they're all going to have the same peg, and that's or peg pivot location. And that's the reason why we're doing that is so that you can grab all three of these pegs at the same time, and you can move the pivot at once, and you'll set all three pegs at once. So a lot of times people try to like split the difference, and they'll and it looks nice. I've done it. I've definitely done it for years of my career to do something like that. But then what ends up happening is you have to go, okay, I'm going to set this one. Now I'm going to set this one. And now I'm going to set this one. And you can do it that way, but it's going to take you a lot longer. So now if you just stick with the what's like the vertical positioning, you'll get through it much faster. So this is going to be our face peg. I need to duplicate our blush. I think I put that off to the point where I forgot about it. All right. So now what I can do, you can group these as well. You could also just copy and paste special. When it's something as small as this, I might do that. In this case, we are calling them, we don't give them the fronts and the backs, but maybe we should. And I can actually almost steal the static transformation. Put that there. And then do the blush. Will actually be the driver of the name. So what I might do, this one's the front. Hello. What did I miss? Oh, I missed the peg. Third time's a charm. Okay. All right. Now we can have blush main. In this case, this is an actual thing that's actually in the middle. And in this case, I would put this peg in between. And same with the eyes. The middle of the eyes is not going to be actually aligned with one of the eyes. So that's why that is there. So we will leave those in the middle. For the blush, what we'll do though is we'll do the thing where we split the difference. There we go. Now we've got the face with 3. That's actually going to be over the eye. You can kind of imagine where the middle of the middle of the pivot point will be, right there. Okay, and so now we've got our face all done. Oh, we got a question. What's your opinion when to use grouping and when not to? I noticed at the studio I work for, they tend to avoid grouping. Yeah, even the eyes aren't grouped. So when we used to rig, we used to not use groups at all. And very slowly, groups became either more relevant or more prevalent. Uh, it's a super it's really preference. Like again, every group you add is something that an animator has to jump into, and so depending on the networks, also the static transformations. And there's another benefit for static transformations when you're using groups. You can actually apply animation on the inside of one group to another. So kind of like what we've been doing is they're just ultra fluid. You can pass information to the other, and most of that's based on names. So if you're using groups, you could actually go in and make sure that something's named properly. And I believe we did that on the eyes. So our eyes are actually on the groups are labeled the front and back. And if you also want, you could do this. I forgot about this. I used to do this. This is the IF. So now when you're in the group, you know which one you're looking at. So you could do that as well. But we haven't labeled any of the pieces inside the group, front or back. And we did that specifically so that the naming is identical. So we can actually go and apply animation from one. You can basically just say apply the animation in this group to this group here, and it'll work perfectly. So that's the benefit of using groups. But again, it's all experience. This is like this is a trend that probably started because of scripts at the studio that I worked at. And it really depends on what production you're going to work on and who's kind of in charge. It's really technical director's choice. So if you, I've seen rigs where everything is grouped, and I've even thought of that, like working on super action poses on shows where you have these like super action scenes with like ripply muscles. Like sometimes you have to add so much to a rig that it loads it down and it slows your scene down so much. So it's kind of like, how can you create a shortcut? And so I've thought about using groups as you could basically just plug in, like, let's say you need like an ultra rigged arm so that you can do this incredible battle scene or robotic scene or whatever. You can just basically like take the default arm out and put in the high quality arm, and then all of a sudden you have access to all these extra controls in an arm that you don't need for most of your scenes, but you need to have it. So the groups are super versatile if you know how to use them. But again, it's and compositing. It's not even animators that don't like to jump through the groups. Like if you notice all the groups that we are jumping into like this, now compositors have to do that twice as much. And if you think about how the pipeline flows, it's a compositor's job to kind of like keep everything clean and neat. And at that point, once it goes through so many hands, that scene might be super heavy. So like there's some downsides to groups too, and that's going to be it. Like it's a compositor's nightmare, for sure. So I think it's better to keep the eyes since it's relatively dense. Yeah, the I find the eyes you want to keep clean, for sure. Inside the head of the character, maybe. Sometimes we'll probably group the head of our character, just to keep it a little bit separate from the body, and that's probably how I rig the most. Um, but yeah, for the longest time, we didn't use groups at all, and it was just one giant spread out network. It really just depends on the purpose. Sometimes there's a lot of details that's important, but sometimes you don't have them. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on groups. Um, Very handy. Also, I don't know, maybe not. All right, I'm just gonna move forward into the head. We're getting into like this style of rigging where I kind of want, I know I want you to see the network. I know people are gonna ask and say that I was too zoomed out, but it's very difficult. All right, so I want the head peg to kind of rule them all. So I'm gonna create a head. I know I'm gonna need a head master peg as well. So let's do head main. And we'll do a head master. Whoops. All right, and so the head main is going to connect to the forehead. The forehead needs a main because it needs to connect to this wrinkle. This wrinkle is actually kind of out of the place. I'm going to move this over here. And I'll put this over. There we go. Hey, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. What's next? All right, so then we get into the hair. The hair is going to be the complicated one. All right, so we got the detail. Let's find bangs front one. We're going to put that little detail on there. And then we're going to call this one the main. And we need another one because we're going to connect it to here, because that is where it's connected to. This is going to be the master front bangs. All right. And that one is going to be attached to this one and this one. Right, so this one's actually going to go here. So move like that. And then I need this piece. Where is it? Right, and so I'm not a huge fan of these crossing green streams, so I'm going to move these over like this, because chances are this piece right here is going to be going with one of these. Let's see. Yeah. Let's move all of this over. Okay. So now this one is going to be attached to this one. So this is the bangs front two. So these are actually going to get moved aside as well. Right, and then we get the shadow and then the bangs. This will connect or control the shadow. Okay, main. Don't love the names for the hair, but it's going to be all right. This one is the shadow. Okay. All right. So now I've got this piece and then this piece and this piece. So this is where we get to kind of like decide, we kind of get to think about the engineering of how this character is going to work. So I could connect all three of these pegs to either one spot. And if I I just temporarily move this here, this is how this hair is gonna look. What I could also do is add one more peg to kind of decide if I wanted to move a little bit differently. So I'd be able to move this one independently, but then I could also move this one independently. But because, you know what, because we have this little detail right here, I think that we don't need it. So I won't do that. I will leave it so that it goes like this. So I will be the main bangs peg. All right, and then we're getting into the final bits. Right. And so we'll treat this back frond, is that what that's called? We'll treat that as like one piece, but we'll add some details in there. So we'll call this the, I'm trying to think of which name I'm gonna steal. Hair. This is really the hair back. Hair mane. Might actually just be wait, this is the line, this is the detail loop. Let's hook up the detail loop to here. No, we'll hook it up to the bigger one. Put it here. And we'll move this here. I think that was this one. Yeah. Great. You can always use Control F, I think, to, yeah, you can make your window. I remember the first time I started to accidentally hit that shortcut, and then my window would change, and I would freak out. Especially I remember the first time that happened to me, I did not know how to get it back because I didn't know what I had hit. But luckily, I figured that one out pretty quickly. All right, so now our main, we're gonna have it so the main one kind of controls. I should have brought this detail over actually as well. Here. All right, so now we've got our main piece. And then we've got this hair. And then we've got this hair. And I didn't name this one, but I will call this one back hair, BK. All right, and so now we've got this one, and I want to make sure that it's over the proper one, which would be this one, this one, this one, and this one. They'll all have the same pivot point. And then we can connect both our hair. Will be both the hairs. Now we get to do the big pegs. So we're just about done now. You can see here that I've basically created 3 little networks, and now we just get to connect them all. So in this case, I've got the peg that gets all of the head, but not the face. And then I've got the head master, which is going to connect to the face. I'll bring this one a little higher. Now that grabs everything, and now I'll create one more, and that's going to be the head plus hair. And that'll be the top of our hierarchy for the head. Here, how much time do we have left? About 30 minutes, 30-ish minutes. All right, and so now that's done. We're pretty much there. Okay, so now we're going to go through. We're going to use that tool, and we're just going to pull the pivot point really quickly. We did this with the eyes last week, but we're going to do this here now as well. I'll make little adjustments to these groups because they're kind of, or not group backdrops, because they're kind of little. You want them to grab the. Sometimes, well, depending on how you want to do it, actually, you can grab the whole network. Might even be better. Grab all the pieces. Next one next. All right. And so from here, I'm not going to worry about the hair. I'll come back and do that. But the head and the face, naturally the pivots are actually in a really good spot. So this is 0, 0. Anytime that you have a pivot point that's not set, it's going to be 0, 0. So here the pivot axis is 0, 0. So we actually want to affect all of those at once and kind of keep an eye on them. So I'm just going to grab all these pegs, switch over to my rotate tool, and put them at the proper spot. Pretty sure our head peg is going to be about here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work down this hierarchy. And in this case, I'm going to finish, because this is such a small network for the head, I'm going to finish these nodes. Like I'll do all these, but I'm going to focus on this node, and then I'm going to go this way. I prefer to go from left to right. So I would typically go through here to this side. It's just that because this is going to be done so quickly with like 2 swipes, we'll do that. So I've already set up most of these pegs. So here to here to here. Now in this case, I'm going to change this one just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these, and I'm actually going to put this up a little higher. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a connection point so that the head, the bottom part of the face, and the top part of the face is going to hinge around the center. So what I mean by that is you get the top of the head, and then you also get the bottom of the head. And I'm just going to grab that wrinkle. Be done. And then the forehead will already be in place. So done. Done, done, done. Okay, so now I'm going to move down this hierarchy. And so in this case, I'm going to grab all of the pegs once again. And I'm just going to move the pivot point to the middle of the face. Zoom in a little so you can see it a little better. And now all of the pivot points are right there. So pretty much where we need them. So the face, the mouth master, I'm going to grab all these pegs and put that where it needs to be, which will be right in the middle at the top of the mouth. Is pretty customary. You can put the creases You can either put the little pivot points at the top. I want to zoom in to make sure that I'm in the right spot. When you're putting your pivot points in places, customarily, if you don't know what you're like kind of trying to anchor it to, middle is a good spot. It's a good overall guess. You can't really get it wrong. But if you know something's connected to something, you want to connect it there. So it's a lot more apparent for the hair because you know that it's connected like right here. Um, but for the mouth, sometimes it's a little bit harder to kind of say those things. So in this case, it's good to be in the center. For the teeth, we can actually jump over to the frame where we're looking at the teeth. So here we can actually set our inner mouth peg and all the other pieces kind of right there, and that's good enough. The tongue, the tongue's going to be over here. Let me deactivate. A little off. Put that down here. There we go. And now we know it's set in the proper spot on the first frame, even though we don't see it. Okay. So there we go. We got our mouth is done. Then we're going to be able to do these. Actually, the center of the eye pegs can stay there. And the blush. The blush main can stay there, and then the blush. Actually going to put it in the center. And then all I have to do is kind of bring the dimples. I don't know if those are dimples or whiskers, but that. And then there's a trick that I want to show you for the groups, for the eyes, and then we're done. We're done the hierarchy. All right, so for these two pegs right here that are above the group, you want these pegs to actually match the pegs that are inside the group. Like you want these to have the same pivot point location. So in this case, you can copy and paste. So I master and then IF. So one of these will. So here we're actually going to steal the I master. This is the inside of the peg group. We want to take this information. This is the old way that we used to move pivot points. We used to do them one by one like this. Copy, view. So now this peg is in the same spot and there's no glitching, which is good. So if you want to like hit B and jump up the hierarchy, you know it's going to be in the exact same spot. And you want that. You want that kind of precision. As I mentioned before, when you give the computer leeway, the computer is going to give you, it's going to make up its own kind of route, which is not necessarily something that the animator wants. And the animator definitely doesn't want to fight that. So you always want to have computer precision. So if you see any wobbles or jumps, it means that there's something going on with your pegs. It could mean that there's movement on a peg above it. So little things you got to look out for. All right, and so that's our hierarchy. All done. Although I did this, and then I was thinking, what we could also do, instead of doing this, what we could also do, because what this is going to do is it's going to create a dynamic where the head shifts this way, and then you can shift. Oh, I didn't get the hair, actually. I have to go back and do that. But what I wanted to say was instead of doing this, we could also do this. And it's just going to move differently. So we can actually connect the top. Wait a minute. Let me undo that. Where is the forehead? Okay, the forehead is here. Okay, we could also do this. Hang on. I'll have to move the network around just a little bit if we go this route. Let's see, what's this gonna look like? This, we've got the head, and then we've got the forehead, and then we've got the hair. So I want to do kind of, because he's a tall character. So what we can actually do is the forehead is then connected to the hair, which is gonna look like this. Come on. All right, so we got the head, and the head and the forehead, and the hair. I guess it works out to be about the same. So I don't think that matters that much. See, I guess we'll leave it like this. This was probably this one is this one. I want to make sure those are pivot points are in the right spot. Right, so we've got the head main, and we'll delete this pivot right here if we need to. This is considered when you have two pegs. This kind of happens when you start moving things around like this at a bigger scale. It kind of happens at the very end if you want to kind of change the way that this is also something that could be subjective with depending on which supervisors you have. Sometimes people want their faces completely disconnected from the rigs too, in a sense that it's not like they want this to be completely disconnected. They'll put the face, kind of attach it to the top of the character, so you can't grab the face and the head. I always try to rig my characters to be anatomically correct, as possible. So that's where I always think of. But I've definitely seen it in other ways. So let's see, we got our head, then we've got our forehead, then we've got our hair. That's typical. I'm gonna leave it like that. No, actually, sorry, I'm gonna keep it so that we've got the head and the face. I want that. That one's gonna go here. We'll use that head main, and then do this one. And then this one will get trashed. There we go. And they'll both go over top of the head peg. There you go. All right. So yes, there's the head, then there's the head and the forehead, then there's the hair. So it's gonna go like this, and then it's gonna go like this. I can't shake. I can't seem to shake that I want to go like this. Control P. The problem. Now, I'm gonna go like this before it connects to everything. I think I like it the other way. I think I like it the other way. All right, we'll leave it that way. Yeah, we'll leave it there. You can connect to the whole head, and then you get the hair. I think that's just a standard. We don't need to get fancy. All right. All right, so now that's done. Let's finish the hair. Then the hierarchy is really done. So same idea. We'll grab all of those pieces. I'll clean up that backdrop as well. And in this case, what we can actually do is we can hide. We know this drawing is kind of in the way. So we can hide those main pieces and then move our pivot point. We'll put everything kind of at the root of that whole area. And then these are the bangs. Goes there. I like using the rotate tool. You can use this one as well, the translate, but I like using the rotate tool because then I can actually test my rotations as I go. And don't be afraid to zoom in and get real particular. I think that these two actually have to be nudged a little bit so that we're always connected on that corner. This one's already set. That's probably pretty accurate. We'll just make sure that they're all coming from the same spot. And this is it. Like, this is kind of the spot where working left to right has really come into play. Because again, we used to have to do this all manually. So if you were jumping around the network while you were setting your pegs, that was kind of why you'd have all these like pegs that you missed. So I would go through, I'd have to check them all individually and then I'd mark them, or I wouldn't even mark them. I'd have to make a list. I'd have to copy and paste the names. And then if the dash P's were not set properly, it was kind of like a little maze. You had to go through and like find the peg that you were referring to that was elbow dash P dash P dash P. So this is where a lot of these like laws come from. Just old, difficult tasks that are a lot easier now, which is nice. Okay. Just make this bigger. Okay. You could go in and you can rename some of these composites right now in case, like, I know this one was composite number 5. So this is the FR bangs. Not entirely necessary, but pretty good habit just to kind of be on it. And then we get into the hair or deformers. All right. All right. So what I was thinking to get into deformers today, what we could do is we have enough time to do, we don't have that much time. We could maybe get through We better not. We better wait. We better wait. We better stop a little early today. First time tuning in. Oh, excited to for you to be here. I'm probably just about to end it. Because we don't really have enough time to finish all the deformers in one eye. But what that means is next week, we're just all deforming. We are ready to go. There will be deformers on everything. We will set the deformers in the eye. We will replace our eye back group. Uh, and we're really quickly with our new deformers. You know what we can do with the time that we do have? We can fix these cheeks because these cheeks are not looking great. Let's see what this is. Let's see if we can make these look a little bit better. So I know I've used the blush here. Let's see. We can maybe it's this. Maybe we don't want to use. Okay, instead of this color, I'm gonna actually paint the skin. Oh, that looks a lot better. There we go. Okay, that looks better. That looks better already. All right, so we're done. We're done. Any questions? All right. Yes, come around next week, Tuesday, 4. Well, I do typically go a little bit later after 6, but we just naturally ended. We just kind of got through everything today, but usually I'm trying to pack more in, but I know if I pack more into this, I'm not going to get it done in time. So I better stop. Let's see if there's anything in the network that we can kind of clean up. I could go in and replace some of more of these groups. Um, but I've seen this happen to cheek blush before. Yeah, and we can add other things. We could add actual blur nodes on there too to make it a little bit more uh, blurry, I guess. So it blends in a little bit more. That's also an option. This one is the under, got the line. Then we got the color art. And then we got this one. And we're not using an auto patch, so we can delete it. And then I got these two that I can replace. There's what, 4 more, 5 more. Yeah. And yeah, and once again, if you are working on this, I'm so bad at plugging myself while I'm doing this. It takes all my brain power to do all this at once and talk to a crowd in a way that's not actually teaching. But yeah, if you're rigging along at home, Smiley Breaks, are you working on this at home as well, or what are you working on while you're tuning in? It is hard. I do have ADHD though, so it kind of I can kind of handle it, but it is still hard. Flash Builder. Oh, cool. Yeah, there's definitely still a lot of Flash productions going on. I used to work on Flash. The thing that made me switch from Flash to Harmony actually was just the fact that the masking program in Harmony, you can just flick a switch to do an inverted. In this case, now we just have to double click the masks. But before you just had to jump in and click on this button. But that's what got me. I never went back to Flash once I learned that I could do that trick in Harmony. I was like, this is it. This program has won my attention. Uh, do you have any questions about Harmony? I can answer a couple questions if you've, or like workflow or. Just not directly in Harmony. It feels like the next step for sure. Yeah, it's a good program. And I think it opens you up for a lot more jobs too, because there's a lot more Harmony jobs than there are Flash, but that could also um, be my, if I have any lack of knowledge in the Flash industry. I would say that I'm probably at my least connected to Flash. Yeah. But yeah, let's see. If you're rigging along, or if you're working on something that you can show, if you want to show it off, feel free. If you're doing homework, send me a screenshot. I'd love to see what it's working on. I know Toontastic last week you were working on a 3D tank, which is pretty cool. I'd love to see that. And then also, what I'm thinking of doing, and so this is like an incentive to kind of rig along with me. If there's anybody out there, as I know, again, I know you're watching a lot of this in the recaps, but if there's anybody out there that wants me to look at the rig that they're working on, I think I'm probably gonna do a Monday session, just to, it'll be coming up in the future. But I'm just kind of throwing that out there to see if there's anybody who would be interested in it. So let me know. And then, yeah, we'll schedule that in the next couple of weeks. So this is kind of your warning. So feel free to be rigging along, throw any questions my way. I love doing this. I'm happy to be able to share all this information. And we'll try to keep this information flowing at like a constant speed, constant rate. And I'm excited to almost have this head done, and we'll jump into the body next, and we'll keep going. We'll keep trucking. But yeah, that's it. Have a great rest of your week, and I hope you tune in next week. Yeah, have a good one.